How did you get into selling drugs and everything?
I guess like the beginning of the '90s, before the crack, and I was selling cocaine before crack, before the whole crack era. We was like used to sell like 50s and hundreds of powder. Before that, PCP. It was just part of my neighborhood. This is what we do. Like dudes like talk about this crack cocaine. But before it was even crack cocaine, we were selling powder cocaine.
And what was it like before the crack got introduced to everything?
I mean, like dudes in Compton, we always made money before they that because it was PCP around. Compton is known for that, like having PCP. So if we selling PCP back then, but for me, I wasn't about the PCP. It was all about the cocaine. Like I think it was a way like it was glorified from Superfly, from uh, what's the movie Scarface and shit. Like so you seen it. So now they're introduced to the neighborhood. So this is what we do.
And at some point, crack comes into.
Crack came in like 94, 95. So
You mean
after
80?
80,
84.
yeah, 84, 85. So
Okay.
we started selling crack because it was, it was a cheaper way to, you made more money selling crack than, but for me though, I was always selling kilos, like, cocaine.
How did you see the community change from before and when you got to the.
Devastated the community. Like our parents, all our parents in the neighborhood, everybody owned their home. So the generation after that, you can see, the kids losing the home because they done got stuck on crack. At that time, the battle ram, all that shit was in effect. Like, people making songs about this stuff, but still, even when they talking about crack, I'm like, what the fuck is crack? Because we never said crack in Compton. It was always rock cocaine. I'm looking at the news and I see crack. I'm like, this is a new kind of drug. I never knew this shit was. That was just the name the dudes from the East Coast called it. Because after they used to break a rock down and made them out of, they used to best crack down and make them out of rocks and sell them for $2 a piece. We never did that. If you had $25 or $50, you're not getting it. We didn't sell crack. We sold rocks. So crack was a terminology that came from the East Coast later, way later, like in '86, '87, and they came up with the crack law and all that shit. But it was it was always rocks and shit. It was just a piece of you start chipping the rock away and made crack. Instead in New York, they were selling for $2 a piece. In California, we never did that.
At one point, you read Freeway Rick?
Yeah, man, Freeway, we always did business, but we just really started doing business like in '93.
Oh, okay, so you didn't meet him till way later.
No, we knew each other. We never
Okay.
did business together. We was always partners. Like he was doing this thing in the West and from his neighborhood, and I was doing my thing. Like if I needed something, like he had it, I go get it. But I always had my own shit.
Let me ask you, so when you and Freeway Rick met, what changed y'all relationship from friends to where you went to where it got to be business?
So this is what happened. So when Rick came home after Rick had went to jail, Rick came home, and so Rick had this building on Crenshaw that he wanted to make into a youth center. I had just beat my case. I went to prison in '91, and I ended up going to trial, and I won, and I came home on the same kind of cases, selling cocaine, like large amount of kilos to. But I ended up going to trial and I won. So Rick ended up getting out almost like a year after me. So he needed his help like with this building, so I decided to give Rick some money to help him with the building that he was doing. And so from the building, we was building the Apollo West, like recreation stuff, Apollo Theater on the West Coast. And then that's when the dude Blandon called, like, he called him from prison. He was already in prison, And he called him and like, man, let's start back the business. And Rick was like, man, I just happened to be with him. And they're like, I don't have the money. Rick said he didn't have the money, but my partner Chico got the money. So that's how the whole conversation started.
So Blandon, for people that don't know, who was Blandon? Calling from prison. What do you mean? He calling from where?
He called him from the federal prison. Like he was already arrested. Blandon got caught with 10,000 kilos. So, but they said if they let Blandon out and catch Rick, they would let him go free. And that's exactly what happened. But we don't know all this information until afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in he was in San Diego, MCC, waiting to get sentenced. But they were so pissed off at Rick from the Haas case that like, if you can get him, so it was a setup from all the way. And so we bid into the setup. Like I ended up purchasing 100 keys from him.
Mm-hmm. So in actuality, I think we had a conversation, and you was telling me that y'all folks had purchased 1,000 keys, I believe.
100.
100 in San Diego at
National
10 a
City.
key back then.
Yeah.
At 10 a key, and you basically fronted Freeway the money and put your chips in to help Freeway make this.
Yeah, I gave him the money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I ended up going down there with him. We was getting, but the dude Blandon was just.
Can you take me through the day? Paint the picture for me.
So the day goes like this. So we had went down there a few times before the deal even go down. I was skeptical because I was like, so where's, because I was wondering like, where he been? But Rick like, Chiggy like my family. So I met him a few times. Like it took him like 4 or 5 times for me to convince me to go down there and do the deal. So Blandon called, said they was crossing the border. Can we get down there? The was traffic, so we were supposed to get there, say like at 11 or 12. So we don't get there till like 5. It's kind of dark there, so they don't want to do the deal because they said it's dark and like, they thought we had guns. But that was their reason. That was just bullshit because they wanted to make sure it was daylight. So the next morning they called us early, like 7 in the morning. Said they was ready, but they was setting everything up. So as they set it up, we went to the Denny's restaurant. So me and Blandon showed up with the undercover dude who was supposed to be, Mexican connection, and he was like, "Oh, y'all ready?" And I'm like, "Nah, where the birds? This is what I said. Man, where the shit at?" Like, "Nah, it's around the corner." And so we talking, and I'm like, and the funny thing, because I see everything moving, I see the cars and shit, like, I'm like looking around, and I'm like, "Rick, let me holler at you." So I called Rick, like, "Man, some of this shit ain't right, man. Why the fuck, like, it's supposed to be like cash and carry, like, I'm giving them the money, they got it. What if these motherfuckers jack it?" Because I'm thinking, like, it's a jack move. We right by the border. They gonna go straight, they gonna take this money and go across the border. But Rick, like, we talking, and Rick convinced me, like, "Chick, no, I ain't, this is my family, this is my people." So I'm like, fuck it. But I still didn't give him the money. I said, "I ain't giving y'all no money until I see this shit, right?" So we left Denny's and went around the corner to this mall. But the mall was already set up, it's 7 in the morning, but his car is all in the parking lot. So I had to do Mike go look this in the car to see was they there. He like, so when they said that, I ended up giving them the money. And they threw the keys to me, like the car keys. So I took the keys and I like, all right, cool. And so I gave because me and Rick was in separate cars. So we had a driver too that was driving. So when he tried to start the car, the shit didn't start, like the cutoff switch. Did you see helicopters and shit coming out of there? I'm like, oh shit, this is a setup. But I didn't know who was setting me up, like, So by this time I'm about to drive through the mall, then the beams on my head. Rick take off in the car and go down the freeway. Rick take off. They got me surrounded, so I'm like, fuck it. So I just stopped. And I see the dude Blandon giving the DEA 5-5 and shit. I'm like, oh, this shit over with. This shit a cold setup. Like, so Blandon, become an informant, so he set us up. But they were more mad at Rick for testifying against the police on the Freeway Task Force shit. So that's how all this shit come apart. But we still don't know that we was, all this time, that we was being funded by the government. So we don't know this shit till like months later. When Gary Webb come to he wrote us a letter. He said,
You're in jail at this time, right?
Yeah, we in jail. So, we like, yeah, man, like, Rick already on assumption because he just got out that he gonna get a life sentence. And there wasn't no deal in that case, like. But when dude came up with this information, saying like, man, we got action. We've been getting supply because then he brought the paperwork to us. We reading this shit, his name's redacted. Like, Oliver North and people